Welcome to this explainer. Okay, picture this. You walk into a bustling restaurant, the host asks, "How many?" And you hold up a single, maybe slightly hesitant finger. Just one. For so many of us, the mere thought of navigating that host stand, walking past all those crowded tables, and actually sitting down to a meal with an empty chair across from us, it triggers a very specific kind of anxiety. Well, we're going to take our time today and unpack that universal, kind of awkward feeling. Because as you'll see, the psychology behind choosing to dine solo might completely change how you view that empty chair. Be honest for a second. Have you ever sat down to eat by yourself and immediately felt like you needed to look busy? You whip out your phone, you stare super intensely at the menu, or you try to project this aura that says, "Oh, I'm just waiting for someone." We automatically assume the whole room is watching and judging us for having no one beside us. But the psychology we're looking at today offers a massive reframe on all of this. That discomfort, it isn't actually yours to carry. In fact, the solo diner, far from being the awkward outcast, is very likely the most self-possessed, grounded person in the entire room. Okay, let's dive into this. The reason dining alone feels so awkward is because eating together is inherently a social performance. Psychologists actually have a term for this: self-presentation management. It's that constant, mostly subconscious effort to control how other people see us. Think about it. We smile, we share anecdotes, we frantically try to fill any awkward silences. It's work. The person eating alone has quietly and intentionally opted out of this exhausting effort. It's honestly so easy to look at a solo diner and project our own fears right onto them, assuming they must be miserable or lonely, but the research tells a completely different story. It's really a choice between performing for company or experiencing true peace. They aren't lonely at all. They are simply done pretending that forced company or making small talk just for the sake of it is the equivalent of actual peace. They've made a deliberate choice to prioritize their own tranquility over the performance of socializing. So what does this all mean? Where does this deep comfort with peace actually come from? Well, it boils down to something called self-concept clarity. Research on solitude and psychological well-being shows that individuals who are truly comfortable alone possess a remarkably clear, stable sense of who they are. They have a full, rich inner world. Because their sense of identity is so anchored, they completely remove the need for external noise just to feel present or validated. For someone with high self-concept clarity, sitting alone with a meal isn't some sad symbol of emptiness. It's literally the exact opposite. It's a moment of fullness. Think about how crazy our schedules get. This quiet meal is one of the very few moments in a busy, chaotic day that belongs entirely uninterruptedly to them. It's not an empty space. It's a claimed space. All right, part 1, the quiet observer and how solitude leads to sharper instincts. So what exactly happens when your brain isn't busy managing a conversation across a table? Your mental bandwidth completely frees up. Conscious solitude drastically alters how you perceive things. Studies on environmental awareness show that solo diners develop incredibly sharp observational instincts. Because their attention isn't tied up in talking, they begin this quiet study of the world around them. They read rooms, they notice the subtle moods of the waitstaff, they track the dynamics at the table right next to them, detecting small shifts in tone that everyone else misses. They aren't withdrawing from humanity, they're actively quietly watching it. Now, it's absolutely crucial to draw a psychological distinction here. Social exhaustion is not the same thing as social avoidance. People who confidently eat alone are rarely trying to avoid humanity altogether. Instead, they're deliberately rationing their energy. They understand their own social battery. They know that not every single hour of the day needs to be given away to someone else. And that means lunch, or really any solo meal, is treated as an active boundary for recovery. It isn't just dead time you awkwardly pass between one meeting and the next. Using a meal to intentionally recharge your social battery is a massive marker of emotional intelligence. It shows a deep, honest understanding of what you actually need to function. Which brings us to part 2, the roots of solitude and emotional self-reliance. But why are some people just naturally better at setting this boundary than others? Well, psychologists note that this often traces all the way back to early childhood experiences of emotional self-reliance. Think of that kid who is always described as the quiet one, the independent one, the kid who deliberately didn't make a fuss. When a child learns early on to manage their own emotions without relying on adults, their developing nervous system literally rewires itself. Over time, that nervous system begins to read solitude as a state of safety and predictability. Company, on the other hand, starts to feel unpredictable and demanding. It's a pretty heavy realization. These individuals learned early in life that depending on others wasn't free. Needing people often came with a burden, a disappointment, or some sort of behavioral cost. And even now, sitting alone in a cafe as an adult, a quiet part of their nervous system is still instinctively calculating that cost. And more often than not, they choose the safety of their own company. This deep-rooted comfort with oneself brings us to another fascinating psychological concept: interoceptive awareness. Basically, this is your ability to notice, process, and regulate your own internal, physical, and emotional states. Most people instinctively try to fill a silence, right? Because to them, silence feels like an absence. It feels like something is missing. But for the solo diner with high interoceptive awareness, silence isn't an absence at all. For them, the silence is the whole point. Because they embrace that silence, they unlock what we might call the intelligence of silence. They naturally eat slower, which is great for digestion. They think more clearly, processing their day without anyone interrupting them. And most importantly, they leave the table having genuinely rested, rather than just hastily fueling up while burning mental energy on conversation. In a world that constantly and aggressively mistakes noise for genuine connection, this ability to truly rest is a rare kind of intelligence. So, let's bring all of this together. The core takeaway from the psychological research is this: an empty chair across from a diner is absolutely not a sign of social failure. And it's definitely not a flashing neon sign for loneliness. It is a testament to self-respect. It's visual evidence of someone who has done the inner work to learn that their own company is entirely enough. I want to leave you with a thought to reflect on today. Have you ever chosen to eat alone? Not because your friends were busy, not because you were traveling for work and had no choice, but because you actually deeply needed to? Most people never give themselves the permission to reach that point. If you found this reframe fascinating and you love understanding the quiet psychology behind the everyday choices people make sure to subscribe to this explainer. Because ultimately, the most interesting thing about human beings isn't what they say, it's what they do when they think no one is watching. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today.